Good evening. It's early May. I'm back in Shankill Road, the burial ground, graveyard, garden of rest. An amazing place. The blossoms are out, the cherry blossoms are out. And I've come to see a particular grave that I missed on the last two times I was here. And this is the grave in the corner here. And you can hardly see the inscription on it because it's just difficult to read it. This is the family burying ground of Francis Nelson, Sugarfield. That's Sugarfield Street, just off the Shankill. And this is the Rev Isaac Nelson's family's grave plot and burial vault in underneath. And the whole family are in here. And this guy, Isaac Nelson, Reverend Isaac Nelson, lived 1809 to 1888. And I can hardly read that. That's very, very difficult to read. You'd need the sun shining on that, which is a wee bit disappointing. It's virtually impossible to read that. But never mind. I have my notes here, so I'm just going to bring them to your attention. Reverend Isaac Newton, he was minister in Comber for his first charge, and that was in 1837. And then he moved to Donegall Street in 1842, and he stayed there for a good many years. And that Donegall Street Presbyterian Church would have been opposite St Anne's Cathedral, but it's all knocked down now. But anyway, in 1887 he died in round that period. In 1887 Nelson Memorial Street Presbyterian Church was put up to honour him, and I think that was sponsored by his relatives and all the rest of it. So what was special about this guy? Well, he was MP for Mayo from 1880 to 85, and he resigned his reverendship or his ministership of Donegall Street Presbyterian Church because of that. He was an outspoken man. He was an evangelical, this man, and he was a sort of renegade within Presbyterianism at that particular time, because he spoke out in 1873 in support of Home Rule, and he highlighted the link that Presbyterianism had right throughout the years with Home Rule. He highlighted that link. Many of the Presbyterian, many of the leadership of the 1798 rebellion, which happened about 100 years earlier, they were Presbyterian led, and they were Presbyterian ministers, and many of them were hanged. So as you can imagine, Nelson's speeches in support of Home Rule didn't go down too well amongst the hierarchy of Presbyterianism. But anyway, an interesting part of him, a big interesting part of him, was actually not all that well known. He was, today, he was one of Ireland's fiercest opponents of slavery during the 19th century. This guy was on fire against slavery. He tackled slavery in Ireland. We're talking about Americans, slavery. But an awful lot of people from Western Europe were involved in that. They had sunk money into it. They had bought slave boats and all the rest of it. They had financed it. And this man, Nelson, he spoke out against them, and he was unequivocal. In 1845, Nelson was instrumental in getting writer, speaker of note and black man, Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass was a freed American slave, and he was famous, and he was very, very well read and very, very well spoken. He was an orator, and Reverend Nelson got him to Belfast and had him on several different platforms, Presbyterian platforms. So Nelson attacked anybody who was connected to slavery in Ireland, and anyone who had, second hand made money out of slavery or took money from it. He attacked them in no uncertain terms, and he wasn't, so he was a founding member of the Belfast Anti-Slavery Society. He supported the Abolitionist cause, and he, at the same time, of course, as I say, he was a strong evangelical. He condemned holding the Bible in one hand and the slave chain in the other. Because of his Home Rule type views, and possibly because of his anti-slavery thoughts and speeches, he was seen as being very, very outspoken, and he condemned other evangelicals amongst the Presbyterians who he felt had been dabbling in slavery, or their relatives or their friends. So he roundly condemned them. Because of all of this, he was largely marginalised. But come up to the Shankill graveyard here and find his grave for yourself, and hopefully you'll have a better chance of reading it than I have had. The granite there, and in this light, is just impossible for me, which is a wee bit disappointing. There you go. Largely forgotten, the Reverend Isaac Nelson, 1809 to 1888. And remembered mostly for his vehemence against slavery that was happening in America. Look at this. I'm on Sugarfield Street, just off the Shankill, just down from Shankill churchyard, graveyard. And this is Nelson Memorial Church. This was the church built to honour the remembrance of Isaac Nelson. And it's massive, and it's sandstone, and it's classical in architecture, structure, and it was built by an architect called William Gilliland, who was well known at that particular time. It's an imposing, grandiose structure. Inside its traditional Presbyterian church setup, and I can't get in there, but that's the way it goes. And they've even got the old notice board from when it was closed. My goodness. Nelson Memorial Presbyterian Church. And I have seen pictures of the inside of this, and it's massive. And it's just so disappointing that it's all locked up and not being used. Well, not that I know. And there's a car park at the rear, it says. So I don't know. Maybe it is being used. But it's an imposing structure. Amazing. I'm just coming on round the back of it. Apparently I was talking to a gentleman that was coming by me there, and the close was the church was closed and the congregation joined up with another church approximately 3 years ago, and the church building is not lying completely idle. It's being used by a drama group, and I think the drama group's called Belfast Beat Carnival, I don't know, and they're into art workshops and drumming and samba and all sorts of puppetry and all the rest of it. And sad to see it like this. This would be such an asset for the community. Brilliant building. I believe the organ and all the rest of it, and the pews are still here, and it's a listed building, so it can't really be touched. But will it just go into rack and ruin? Who knows? Nelson Memorial Presbyterian Church. That was named after Isaac Nelson, the Reverend. Home ruler, MP, and anti-slavery leader in Ireland. And apparently there's a bust of this man in the Spectrum Centre just on up the Shankill, but I can't get into that tonight, so there you go.